the studio tonight, man. I have a very special guest tonight. I'm going to introduce himself, man. We can get started, man. But before we start, you listen to Accentuate the Positive with yours truly, Christopher A. Pender, 215-782-8464. And I got to do my do better, be better moment, man. My do better, be better moment is, man, I need you to rise up to the challenge, man. It's like, man, I don't watch the news. My wife does. Every morning somebody getting shot at, man. And these kids belong to somebody. Somebody is a father to these boys, man. And we got to rise up to the challenge, man, because it's getting pathetic. On one hand, we want to complain because, what police do to us. And I get it. It's wrong. But on the other hand, man, we're setting this barbaric tone for our young men, man, that's giving them fodder, that's feeding them, that's giving them justification for how they treat us. And you can't, look at one and ignore the other. I'm all down for social justice. I think it's crazy what's happening to our brown boys, but the narrative we're painting right now is not a good narrative. We gotta start doing something, man. We gotta start taking responsibility for our boys. We gotta take responsibility for our girls, because our girls can't be dating these knuckleheads, man. We gotta help these women, man, that we're impregnating, that we're making moms, man. And we gotta be more than just sperm donors, man. We gotta be dads. We gotta be fathers. And that's my do better to be better moment, man, because a lot of the chaos that we see now in society is a result of us not being where we're supposed to be. When I talk about it in my book, when grown men play hide and seek, well, this is what happens when we hide from our responsibilities, man. You get what you get now. So now I want to turn over and introduce yourself, man. Let's talk a little bit.
Hey, my name is Tre Hadrick, Ernest Tre Hadrick, the third. I'm from Norristown, PA, not too far on the other side of Montgomery County. Thankful to be here. I'm an educator in the Norristown public school system. I'm aspiring a school principal right now, Cabrini University. I just got done my first class. I'm now currently in my second class and coursework as we speak this summer. Just glad to be here. Glad to share a few gems with you and take some as well.
No, it's my pleasure, man. One thing about the show, and I tell you about the title so you can get a grip on it, because most people, it's funny because when I first came up with the name of the show, Accentuate the Positive, people were like, man, that's not a word. My wife was like, dude, you get a better class of friends, man, because that is a word. But it was funny because I actually, the show, I came upon a name because I want this show to highlight people like yourself. If you commit a crime, you're everywhere. Mm-hmm. But people who do what you're doing, who are in this fight, man, for social justice, for just improving the lives for some brown people, man.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, caring for people in general.
Yes.
I always want to make that clear. Mm-hmm. So the format of the show is to highlight people doing stuff that people don't ordinarily get a chance to hear from. Mm-hmm. And I've had some exceptional people that people know about, but I always try to find young brothers or sisters like yourself, man, who are in the fight. Because we live in a time where you get ignored because we like to talk about the people who do nothing.
Completely true.
So one, I want to applaud you, man, for the work you do, man, and being that third, because I knew your dad.
Yes.
Is a soldier in this journey as well.
Yeah.
But you have a website.
I do.
And I was checking out an article you had last night about superheroes.
Yes.
And I had to read it like 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
What's funny, because I was really intrigued with the title. And I'm like, I got to read this again, because just that title, superhero.
Yeah.
In the age where Marvel has movies coming out, man. I just went and saw Spider-Man the other day, man.
Sure.
That term superhero is so relevant with today's youth,
mm-hmm.
Male and female.
Mm-hmm.
So first I want to talk about, how did you come up with the title? What made you use that title?
I just think, my son, 7-year-old Ernesto back at home, sitting with my wife now, Pearlie, but he loves Marvel, so as I think about that and think about how much joy that brings to him, I think about what an educator should be doing for a child. I'm a firm believer that an educator is that parent when the parent's not there, and I believe that you have to have that wherewithal to be able to do whatever it takes to make a child successful, period. I don't have any, yes, there's challenging times, but there's no excuses.
No, we're going to talk about the challenging times.
And they are. There are many. But you have to really believe, take the steps forward to do whatever it takes. It doesn't matter how rough it gets. We're in a world of technology where there's a lot of free things out here, language apps, math apps, reading apps. There's so many things that we can do to really put our children forefront and get their education where they need to be. We know that sometimes our kids come into schools behind academically, and it's not a fault of ours always. It's sometimes a systemic thing, and an availability of resources, and now with the technology aspect, if people are teaching that, they always talk about a digital divide. There was an article a few years ago talking about the difference between Kensington and Chestnut Hill in a library in both of the places. And they said it's no longer a digital divide because of not having a device, it's knowing how to use a device to the full potential. A lot of times people don't understand that, so I don't know, myself, as far as, superhero, I have two teachers from when I was at Hancock Elementary School, back when I was in 4th grade, Miss Lynn Johnson and Miss Rena Borowski. Those two people were my superheroes when I transitioned into the public school system. And they stuck by me to this day. Friends with me on Facebook, watch everything I do, and it's just good to have people like that in your corner, who believe in you. And you know how, if you think about Marvel and all these cartoons or whatever you want to think about, back in the day, it was Captain Planet and, whatever it was, but it made kids and people believe in the unbelievable, and if you have somebody in front of you like that, usually you're going to succeed and go further in life.
Yeah, but I think that term superhero itself, after I got past the title, because you sent me a link, I popped it open, and I wasn't expecting anything really. I just, I was interested because I had to talk to you. I said, let me dig a little deeper, and I couldn't get past the superhero. It's like I saw it, I scrolled down, then I went back up. I kind of saw it, I scrolled down, and I went back up, and I saw it, I scrolled down, and I went back up. Mainly because when I hear the term superhero, the first thing that comes to my mind is, in this days, we're always looking for a hero. We're always looking for a hero, maybe not in the terms of a superhero, but, in our community, we always want that black leader that's going to rise up and lead us, man. We're always looking for that on our sports team, that guy that's going to take our team to the next level, and we live in a society where it's always about, we're looking for somebody to do something.
Sure.
And when it comes to social justice, or when it comes to education, when it comes to things that impact us dearly, a lot of us don't move on our own. Excuse me. We're still looking for that guy.
Sure.
So that's what made me go back and read it. And when I read it, it was a different take. That's why I had to read it a couple times.
Appreciate it.
Because when I began to read it, I thought I was going to be reading about somebody who was invincible, that kind of weathered the storm and be this great teacher, and it wasn't. So let's talk about the content now. How you relate the content to the title.
And I for one, the website is the Seeds of Leadership at edublogs.org. Something I came out, I was blessed to have a TEDx speech a year ago. It was called the Seeds of Leadership, and from there, within the principles program that I'm in now, I had to create a blog and getting used to this writing more often than usual. But it's part of the plan, part of the mission. But within that blog, talking about the superhero, it's just something to really make people think about what you're doing every day. When you have a child in front of you, for the most part, you can have them do anything. And unfortunately, we see it going the wrong way sometimes. But in a positive manner, if you think about what your strengths can be to do with a child, if you ask a child to meet you here or put an incentive, they're going to do whatever it is. Or if in the sport, world, when the kids are asked to dribble a ball 100, they'll do it 200 times for you, And I just think that people don't realize their power at that moment. Sometimes we're so quick to say, well, this child, the parent doesn't come to the meeting, or I haven't been able to get in contact with this, and just excuses. And I try to, I guess, figure out ways to show people your power and your strength and what you need to be for a child who's sitting in front of you, just saying, help me out. That's how I looked at it as I began to write it and try to build something that makes people understand their power.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. There's a lot of teachers who just really show up. And that's in all districts. Norristown, Cheltenham, and some of the better districts. Those are issues that we face daily. How do you overcome that? Because we live in a time now where it seems more popular for folks to assimilate.
Sure.
And instead of and adjusting to the new norm, so to speak.
Well, and I go back to the superhero thing, but I had a a coach in college at North Carolina A&T, a guy named David Patterson, my running back coach. And Coach P, he used to have this whole poem, The Man in the Mirror, about looking at yourself and making sure that you're, doing what's right for yourself before you worry about everybody else. And that's how I look at it myself. Every day I get up, I look in the mirror, and I have this saying, as a school counselor at this moment, I say, who can I help today? Not like, who do I have to help? You know what I mean? Like, or what problem do I got to worry about? Like, who can I help? Every day I get into that building, I try to figure out who can I make better every single day, period, regardless of the situation. And I think it's more of an internal fortitude to want to make sure the kids are successful. I just, as an alum, I'm not going to lie, it does make me have a little bit more emotional ties and presence to Norristown, and have that loyalty to make sure these kids are succeeding in the classroom.
Well, it's time to be a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
Your quote kind of took me back. No amount of money ever bought a second of time, Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of felt, I chuckled when I read it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a powerful quote,
mm-hmm.
but most educators,
mm-hmm.
quote educators, or they quote philosophers.
Sure.
Not many quote people from a movie.
But, well,
I'm not saying that.
No.
It's odd that because when you read stuff, Maya Angelou,
oh yeah,
Benjamin Banneker, George Washington Carver, we quote those things, but that's not, it's not typical.
Yeah, and I think that's part of our challenges sometimes, because we try to put like the cream of the crop, or we try to put the I don't know how you say it, like the like you said, Martin Luther King's, or everybody up here on the plateau, and as educators to prove that we know this quote from, but our message is supposed to teach to the masses and reach to the masses, and often people don't think of that. We only think about the educators that are also out here. We're not thinking about touching the globe and the world, and that's where I try to be a little bit different in my approach, to try to touch more people. And I know everybody, don't matter if you got 10 degrees or if you don't have a degree or a high school diploma, everybody loves Marvel. And I know it was a way to catch people's attention.
Because your first paragraph says, as educators, as education leaders, we must understand that time is not on the side of the students. 12 years of schooling can go fast. In a blink of an eye, that kindergarten child is now paying off to post-high school opportunities. People will say, I hope that student used his or her time wisely, because life is not here. Then it's funny, because I do agree with it. However, I also like to say, has every educator that stood in front of that student given his or her best effort to empower that student? That's a powerful question, and that's a powerful, I say that because I think most people, we live in a time now where most people don't self-assess.
Mm-hmm.
When it's easier for most people to say what their peers are not doing or doing.
Mm-hmm. Because we look at everybody else, because of social media.
Yeah.
It's that whole like, it used to be the old quote back in the day, when you point one finger, you got three, pointing back at you.
Most people don't know that now.
Now it's just like everything's at someone.
But even that, or I hear this, because I hear this even out here in the district a lot, where the first thing you do is blame the kids.
Always.
It's the child's fault. And you said something earlier that I thought was pretty powerful, that I do hear some educators say, but not enough, that it's not the child's fault. You kind of alluded to that a little earlier when you were saying if a kid comes to you and the kid is not at the level he or she should be at, that it's not always their fault.
No, I mean, there's accountability that needs to go around the table for everybody, educators, parents, the children themselves, but I guess when they're in my care, it's like, if it was a sport, like I told one of my friends recently, right? When people take their kids to play sports, right? And that guy, the coaches never say, well, what did you learn at home first? You just start teaching them how to dribble. You teach them how to shoot. But when it comes to education, sometimes educators are quick to say, well, have your mom and dad been reading with you at home? Have they been? Bro, he's in your care now. What can you do to help this kid get to the point they need to get to?
One of my biggest frustrations is when I'm in a room with educators is when they tell me, or when I hear them say, it should be happening at home.
Mm-hmm.
Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, can hope for different results.
Mm-hmm.
And at what point we're going to realize that for most of these kids, it's not happening.
It's not happening.
So when do we adjust the system? When do we kind of tweak what we're doing and adjust it so our kids can have the best opportunity to be successful?
And I think that's, like I said, that's a systemic thing that we have to work on. When the kid's in my care, I truly believe that the tools that I try to give them will make them successful, that no matter what environment they go home to, that they'll probably remember what Mr. Hadrick taught them, and hopefully that will make them successful. You know, like what I'm saying, man, get some sleep at night. Hopefully they go home and try their best to get some sleep. I don't know what's going on in the household. It's hot as I don't know what right now. Some kids don't have air conditioning. It's a million different things, right?
Some of the social and emotional issues that these kids deal with.
It's beyond, you know, but that's also, I think, our approach that needs to be kicked in. You know, often we don't think that. We're so quick to say, well, you know, once it's 3 o'clock, you know, you're out of. No, I hope my stuff lasts beyond 3 o'clock. So.
But I think that's more, and we lacking is of. What I like to tell people is I like to consider myself as one who invests in people, and provide opportunities, not chances. And what I mean by invest is because you can't do a drive-by and call it an investment.
Understood.
You know, investing means you spend time. It means you know there's a level of transparency. You know, you share nuggets that you learn to be passed on, and you do it as much as you can. It's not I'm just going to throw it out there today. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Which I hear a lot of.
Sure.
And I say opportunities, not chances, because chances are those things that come and go.
By all means.
You know, and chances to me a lot of times when people give chances is one-sided. You know, no matter how many times I keep giving you a chance. Opportunity means you have to meet me somewhere.
By all means.
You know, opportunity means we're both going to try to work through this.
To get through something.
Yeah, and that's the approach I think we have to have. I've worked with every population from preschool to prison.
Sure.
And it's been interesting. It's been a blessing and a curse because it's been educational. Because I kind of see how A gets to Z.
Everything is it. And it's funny you say that, but everything starts it. You know, we're in a country where going to school is mandatory, no matter how we look at it. You know, if parents don't send their children to school, have them signed up somewhere, whether it's private, Catholic, public, whatever it is, you know, you can go to jail. You know what I mean? That's just the reality here. Like, they will send you to jail if you're not educating your child. And when I say that, it's also the foundation to every career, every profession. You know, somebody started as a child somewhere, you know, and that school system shaped them, shaped their community, everything as such. You know, and a lot of people don't want to take that onus, don't want to take that, like, accountability. But you have that factor, you have that impact on that society, especially like in, let's say, Norristown. You know, our school district has a direct effect on our community. It's just the reality. You know, we can't say it's not. If we think about it, there's different studies out there, how many people go on beyond, or some people who live local and work local. So we have to look at all those aspects.
Well, you do, but most people don't. Most people don't think with a community mind. You know, most people always think about the direct impact it has on them. You know, and typically short term. They're not thinking long term. I know, you know, I come across people, and I'm a North Philly kid.
Sure.
And some people, well, why do you do what you do? Because, you know, you got 3 college graduates, your kids are grown, you kind of, you know.
Sure.
But it's who I am.
Sure.
You know, this is the purpose that God placed on my heart, and unless something happens, this is probably what I'll be doing, you know, until the end.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is, because I want to get to this with you, is why? Because, you know, you're educated, very well spoken, you're back at Cabrini, you know, there's a place, and as an African American or brown educator, your doors are wide open for you everywhere.
Appreciate it.
So why Norristown?
I
don't mean in a bad way. I think there's not enough of us who give back to where we're from.
Sure. It's loyalty. It's a loyalty thing in the educational system. You know, yes, I have other opportunities in coaching in different districts, but I understand where education is the foundation of everything. And I'm fortunate to work underneath 2 great administrators in my building who give me the opportunity to flourish, I believe. You know, and I bring ideas, and if it makes sense, it usually can happen.
You can name them if you want.
Oh, Christina Taylor and Joseph Rodriguez. Those are, you know, the 2 principals that I work for. And, you know, I've been blessed in the last couple of years to really be able to have a strong influence on some of the things we do in our building. We talk about diversity, we talk about economics, equity, a lot of things, you know. And I just try to push. You know, it's just, you know, I was putting something up today or yesterday regarding 3 guys who were my basketball coaches years ago. You know, I ended up playing football more than basketball, but these guys were, you know, mentors for a season. But I remember everything we did during that time. You know, playing ball, the hot black top, you know, but you think how powerful it is when they're in front of you, you know. And to this day, it's still impact. When you see these guys, it's still love. It's to hold you accountable. One guy, you know, we call him Hammer in the community, but he's Mr. Accountability. He's always talking junk to make sure that, you know, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But it's just a, you know, a way of making sure that people are taken care of. You know, my father taught me that, I'll be honest. My mother as well as an educator, former educator from Norristown. But my dad, you know, his loyalty to Norristown is part of what I do. You know, I'm not gonna lie. He showed me the ropes at a very young age. Probably, you know, he'll tell you to this day, probably too much time out of the house. But what I learned from him in his walk, it just taught me more than I ever thought I would understand. You know, and the sacrifices that he made, you know, the kids that he coached, and the time spent to help people is unbeatable.
I gotta get both of y'all on here, man, because, you know, I have, you know, some familiarity with your dad as well.
Sure.
I just think it's, for me, when I see especially young brothers, you know, with the passion you have, it needs to be in front of our youth as much as possible, because it becomes contagious. You know, for that kid who's growing up aspiring to get out of Norristown, I gotta get out, get out of here. You know, it does become contagious, man. It kind of, you know, and you never know who it inspires. You know, who's the next guy to come along that says, I want to come back and be a teacher, and use the word that you don't hear. And I'll turn it back to you. Loyalty is a word you don't often hear in anything. In anything. So for that word right there, you know, speaks volumes about your integrity and your character.
Appreciate it. Like I try to go around the building and slap kids 5, every kid in my school, every day. You know, like that's just to build a sense of continuity and empowerment. You know, like it doesn't matter. We have, you know, gifted kids who are National Junior Honor Society students all the way down to special needs kids. It doesn't matter for me. Every single, I mean, if we're talking about germs and colds, I probably would have it 1,000 times.
Man, that's me.
You know, and I just, you know, I'm a firm believer though, but there's a sense of community and a sense of empowerment and touch. You know, that's why we shake hands. That's why, if not, people want to do that, you know. But
I think it's important, though, that see, and when you do it, I think you take it for granted, because, you know, that was me. But, you know, I was talking to somebody recently, and they said, you know, it's amazing how when you go into these programs, you always know some kids. You know, you always know some kids. And for me, that's normal. For me, the reason why we do what we do is to have an impact. And you can't have an impact unless you have an influence, and you can't have influence unless you get to know people. You know, people aren't often influenced by strangers. You know, they get jealous, they get intrigued, but, you know, influence comes with, you know, and it also leads to effective leadership.
Sure.
You know, you talked about being a principal. You cannot be a good principal if you don't have a certain amount of influence over students and staff.
Sure.
So I think that's key that you said that. But
relationships is everything.
Well, you know, I think it is a word you don't hear often. You know, I think more importantly, I always say this, when I go out and speak to people have me come out and speak, I share with them, and most people, especially other races, are kind of shocked when I say this, when I say that, you know, brown folk are very relational, man, especially with our kids. When you build that relation, man, it's to the moon and back. You know, I got some kids, man, as a kid in a program I run in Jersey, and they weren't gonna let him come back because he just gets in trouble.
Sure.
And I'm talking to some people, and I said, but what you don't understand about the kid is that kid never lies to you. That says something special about a kid who gets in trouble but always owns up to it. You know, and come to find out, it was really, his relationship at home was not too well with his parents. You know, and he is a class he's struggling in, so rather than appear to be dumb, he just started to act out. But this is where relationship comes in, when you dig a little deeper.
And that's like, so we have on Fridays in my school, I meet with a group of kids, well, during this past school year. You know, it will start back up in the fall. But we do like workouts, like physical workouts on Friday afternoons. But it also gives me a chance to learn the kids in a different light. You know, as we know, sometimes if you're coaching, and I don't coach in the middle school, I actually coach football at Conestoga High School in Berwyn. But, you know, it's like I said, it's a very good way to get a feel for the kids. And, you know, what I've been blessed to do is know that this kid might struggle in the classroom, but I know he's not, quote unquote, a punk, or he's not scared because he goes through this workout and he strives hard. So how can we find that same fortitude in him in the classroom and find what he likes. Because if you can do this workout that I know is probably challenging, something I've learned from years ago playing college sports, and you get through that and it's mental toughness, I know you can sit there and do what you need to do in the classroom if we're engaging you right.
But see, the key phrase is engaging. I run series after school programs, for an organization, and I also have my own organization. And one thing I'm trying to get everybody to understand is the importance on project-based learning now.
Sure.
Because the academic level is so different for these kids now. You can have 20 fourth graders and only 5 actually be reading at fourth grade level. Some can be as low as first, some can be as high as seventh. So just finding that thing that engages them, which is a key word, determines whether you're going to be effective or not. And I think that's the problem, though, that education has become a one-size-fits-all. Education has become, a system.
Yes.
And no longer about people. We talk about the importance of education, and we put almost no money into it. One of the things that I say that I think troubles some people when I speak is that the system is not broken, it's doing what it's designed to do, and that's fail our kids. And people always look at me like, ooh. And the problem with it is you're trying to fix something that's not broken.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And you're trying to fix something that you don't thoroughly understand.
Yeah.
So, and I think the second part of it is, I think really is eye-popping that people don't really pay attention is, man, that, we say one thing when it comes to education, but we don't put our money where our mouth is.
No. And that's the challenge. Like it's like I said earlier, finding the solutions. Often we'll say these things and, hey, we want to do this, but are we really pushing ourselves to finding the solutions? It's funny you brought that book out. I never forget the girl. What's her?
Sonia Douglas Horseman.
Yes. The one who spoke at Cabrini that night, right? Yeah. And she said something that was so powerful. We're talking about dealing with situations in different environments, economically, racially, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And she said about putting out a fire.
Yeah, Martin Luther King quote, yeah.
Yeah, and she said, how does she say it? You don't put out a grease fire and a wood fire the same method. Like, it was so powerful. Thinking about how we try to fight everything the same as that.
It's a quote in this book that just blows my mind, and I spoke at a graduation. And I shared it, and it was a hush.
Sure.
And it says, and the quote is by Marion Wright Edelman, and it says, is this what we really desire for our nations and children's future? That's the question. And it says, or are we prepared to, and this is the quote, are we prepared to stand up, speak out, raise a ruckus, and assist our schools, all of them from traditional public schools and public charters to magnet and community schools, live up to the promise of educating every child and replacing the prison pipeline with a pipeline to college, career, and productive work. And it's like, that is so powerful. But I think the thing she says is the challenge that we lack. We're not speaking up and standing out. And I found myself saying this quote a lot. Like, my grandmother used to always say that we beg for what we need, and we buy what we want. And she was saying that's wrong. That's the problem with most of us. And I think, and it's across color lines. It's not just a minority thing.
Oh no, yeah.
It's really prevalent in our neighborhood. But society, we've gotten to the point where we're so materialistic that we beg for people to fix our schools up and put money into our schools, but we go buy their stuff. I was on the cruise and I was talking to a young man on the cruise, and we were talking about his book and some other things.
Sure.
And he was like, which a lot of young brothers tell me, we don't have the resources. So I'm looking at him, he got on a pair of $500 sneakers, Gucci this, Gucci that, expensive sunband glasses with the gold frames on, man, about 4 chains around his neck. Dude, you got resources alone to educate a couple children. But I think what happens is we don't understand how to use our resources.
And that goes back to the thing I was saying earlier regarding that study that was done in Kensington and Chestnut Hill, not knowing how to use technology. Like if you were to take, I don't know, $50, right? Let's just say, and suppose an app for education cost $1, right? And you bought it for 50 kids. Look what you just did. You know what I mean? Like
but you're also talking about selflessness versus selfishness.
Yeah, but
I think
you gotta have that.
But one of the good things they've done in society, excuse me for cutting me off, is make us selfish. They've turned around and said it's about you. You got to get yours. That person. I've heard parents say it's about their own kids.
Sure.
They got to get theirs like I got mine. I've heard that. And it's bad enough when we say it, but when I hear parents say it about their kids, That's.
Well, I think sometimes parents have been hurt
Yeah.
by school systems, by community entities, by the judicial system and such. So when they say that, like, it's, we always tell people, like, don't try to live through your child, but we don't know the obstacles sometimes those parents went through, and that's why they're trying to make sure the child gets what they deserve.
Yeah. But I think it's human nature to want more for your child than you've had. Not necessarily saying that you had a bad life. I know. I look at my kids, and I want more for them. I want them to have better experiences. I want them to enjoy the fat of the land, so to speak.
Sure.
But at the same time, I want them to be selfless, and not selfish.
No, yeah.
And I think that's the dilemma that you fight now, that we have not figured out how to be successful and selfless. That most of us want to be successful, but we think we have to be selfish.
You don't have to. I mean, supporting people can go a long way. You know what I mean? Like little things go a long way, and I think often, like I said, we're in a society we create as adults, right?
Yep,
this whole social media thing, and we're saying the whole selfish thing, but it goes a long way because you're taught to take a selfie of yourself. You're not taught to take a group photo. You know what I mean? Like, it's more on self this, self that. And I and I'm a victim of it myself as well. I'm not perfect, but I think that as educators, going back to what we're talking about, we need to teach these things. We talk about social and emotional education and learning.
Well, I'm going to break for a song.
Okay.
Justin LaRue, the way he is, and I got my man Ernest Haddock III on here. Spiritual Connect Radio, spiritualconnectradio.com for those who tuning in through Facebook. You can hear us the same way. 215-782-8464. 215-782-8464. If you got a question, just want to give a shout out to my man Ernest for being on here, man. Let's go to a song and then we'll be right back. We are back live in the studio with my man Ernest Haddock III and me, Chris Pender Sr. 215-782-8464. I want to welcome the Haddock family, who I believe just tied in, man. You want us to give a shout out to your wife, man?
Oh, hey, probably how you doing, Nesto? You probably listening. Love y'all.
Yo, be proud of my man. He got this passion and fire here. So we were talking about one of my favorite but least favorite terms, because it's something that it's like the unicorn. Everybody's talking about it, but everybody seems to fall short in achieving it, and that's educational equity. And I say that because it was funny, because we were there that same night when Dr. Sonia Horford was talking about it, and I never thought about till she said it, that we've achieved desegregation, but we've never achieved true integration. And when I stopped and thought about that, it was deep. But even our educational systems, if we had true integration, we wouldn't be talking about educational equity. So I want to go there is one, what does that term mean to you? Because everybody uses this term all the time, no matter what educating meeting you go to, here it comes.
Yeah. Equity means to me is like looking at every scenario, and yes, can it be challenging, can it be time consuming, but look at every scenario to make sure that we are serving everybody to their full potential, from the students to the teachers to the parents to the community members to our external stakeholders, making sure that we're looking at everything. In our building, even though the majority of our students are black and brown in our school, there are still inequitable situations that we need to look at. We can't just think, well, your whole school or your majority of your district is black and brown, and there are still ways that we can improve. Obviously, recruiting of more minority educators is one great method as a start, but we have to realize that race has to be talked about. It's just part of America. As much as the cheesesteak is part of Philadelphia, race is a part of America.
You touched on this earlier though, but it makes people uncomfortable.
It's okay.
And what I'm learning is I think it's okay for some, but for a lot of others it's not, because it reminds people of the ugly history of America. It kind of points out the warts on the prom queen.
No, I get that, but I think, especially in the educational level, where school is mandatory, as I mentioned earlier, you have to talk about those things. This is not an optional thing for children. They have to go through your system. So you want to find ways to make them, reach their full potential. And if it's talking about race, talking about history that makes them feel empowered and encouraged to do more.
It's a hard conversation. I know I look at my 3 kids who we moved out here to Cheltenham because we wanted a better educational system. And it provided that. And we wanted diversity, it provided that. And we wanted to make sure they were well educated. One thing I could not really teach them about was racism because it's one thing to talk about it, but trying to find that line where you're not making them angry and frustrated and making them think that every person of another race is against them, and balance them where they're just not naive. It's hard. And I can tell you the instance that happened to the 3 of them that I end up, probably hurt me more than them, but just having conversations.
Sure.
And it's tough. It's tough because it's not a conversation that's had.
No, and it's very tough because I look at my son now, and the school that he attends is very diverse, and kids at that infinite stage of kindergarten through 2nd grade, they don't understand everything at that time,
But they love each other.
They love each other, and we have to teach, love at that early stage.
Racism is taught.
And that's where I was going, and as we get older and things change and jealousy happens and everything else adds into the racial, configuration and how we're dealing with things as a society. And I think that, if people really look at that breakdown and understand that, and that's why I go back to education, it's so powerful. There's so much you can do in the early stages of a child's education, which is their life. Like, it just is what it is. It's, if you look at everything you do in your first, 18 years, majority of it is spent in a school building, a school setting.
But we were talking about this off air, and I had a college coach who used to always tell us, if I keep you uneducated, I keep you poor. If I keep you uneducated and poor, I'll forever control you. So, and we talked about this off air, the system is not broken. The system is doing what it's designed to do. The problem is we're trying to fix something that's not broken. We're trying to right a ship that's right on course.
Well, I think it's also like, people have the opportunity to possibly go to college, even though college is not for everyone, or people have the opportunity to seek higher opportunities. They have to be willing to share back and help others immediately. If you get information, you're able to share something out through social media or, sitting down with people and sharing that, so they're getting a grasp. Because, as we know, majority of directions and instructions and books that are supposed to touch the masses aren't written in a college master's degree level. It's written in a basic form. Even directions for, your mixer here, this is written in the basic form that a child in 4th grade. So if we're able to get out the information that's going to help people get empowered, we need to do that. I know myself, I'm blessed to have, 2 degrees and going for, basically a 3rd, as in the principal cert, and a little bit more. My goal is to constantly push things back to the community here, learn about this, learn these ideas, the investment that people put in me, I gotta give that back. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. And I don't know if it makes me different from others, but that's just how my walk is every day.
Well, I mean, it does make you somewhat different because we talked about it earlier. We're in a world that is selfish and not selfless. I think there are certain things, and we talk about why I call this show Accentuate the Positive.
Sure.
We need to highlight more of that. I think there's more folk out there like you and I. People just don't know about it.
Sure.
Because we highlight the bad stuff. We highlight the people who shoot and kill and rape and pilferage, who steal or corrupt. We highlight them. We hear more about them. And then the everyday guy who's really doing what he needs to do is not being heard from. And I think that's part of the problem. Another part of the problem is that as men, we talked about this either in my do better, be better moment. We have not stepped up to the plate. We've kind of, unfortunately, you and I are atypical. Because I have friends who are educated who are selfish, who to complain about this next generation but won't do a thing, lift a finger or support anything to help them.
Well, and I think being a man takes a lot. Responsibilities. It's a sense of responsibilities. And I look at, I had a friend earlier on social media, and I know it's not the end all be all of showing his manhood, but he I don't want to say released, but he put out some personal things about him, about how he's constantly trying to grow as a man. He's been through this, been through that, trying to come back, but showing that vulnerability as a man, a black male, which we're taught to be so tough no matter what, to me, that shows a sense of pride and a sense of manhood as I'm trying to grow. You know, we're easily, you know, taught to be so strong, never to cry, never do anything, you know, and that's not always real. You know, we had a few years ago in our community, one of my students, he ran back into a house to save his father and ended up dying in a fire, in a burning house. You know, and I was in tears, sick to the stomach, hurt, you know, just like, I can't believe this, you know, and if somebody saw me, they probably thought I was a punk, but I was okay with that because I care so much about these kids' well-being, you know. So I just look, you know, I look at the total aspect of being a man, and I think it's more about learning how to be vulnerable to gain strength, you know, and to get better, and I think that's what we have to get to.
But I think it's easier said than done, and I say that because, you know, face it, we live in town. Folk don't like to be challenged, man. We like the status quo. You know, we like to get up and do the same thing every day. I get up, I go to work. You know, I don't have any challenging issues. I come home, I take care of myself. If I got a nice car, I got a nice car. I got a nice house. I do those things. That's beginning to end for a lot of people. There's very few people who fulfill their purpose. There's very few people who, when you talk to them, they are fulfilled in what they're doing in life.
Sure. I think, you know, one thing that I was taught years ago, and I try, one of my friends I do this with, like accountability partner, that can help you stay on the course. You know, usually it could be also your spouse at home. But however, we get comfortable there as well. You know, sometimes you need somebody to motivate you, and then, especially on a man's side, you know, if we're talking on a manhood wise, it's good to have somebody who else can say, hey, have you been doing this? Even if it's eating right, even if it's working out, you know, reading, whatever it is, to continue to keep your sword sharp.
Yeah.
You know, often, you know, we get content. It's very easy to get content.
I think content comes from, you know, we don't challenge ourselves. We don't raise the bar for ourselves. We don't raise the bar for the next generation. I've always challenged my sons and my daughter to be better than me.
Sure.
You know, to not look at me as utopia. You know, the goal. You know, I am a part of the vision that helps you get to a higher goal. And I think that's what we have to challenge our kids, and not just our kids, people we come in contact with, our peers. You know, we got this conference coming up in September I want to talk about real quick, in September 14th, and I really appreciate you, bro, for being a part of it.
Sure.
It's called SOS Save Our Sons. You know, and it's about what we just got finished talking about. It's going to be set up to educate, empower, and inspire. You know, actually one of the workshops is raising the bar. You know, that we got a workshop. I got my man Hildebrand Peltzer, who is an award author. He actually helped the penal system for young men move beyond GETs to high school diplomas. You know, big component of education, working with at-risk youth. He's going to be doing a workshop. So that's one of the things that we want to highlight is just how we can help, you know, kids. I just talked to somebody from NAACP in Jersey. So they're going to commit some kids. So the goal is to have 100 young men between middle school and high school, which I think we may pass that. But I want them to hear from people like yourself. I want them to hear from people who didn't live the so-called charmed life, but found a way to make it work. And at the same time, I'm not against it, but I think we have to stop sending messages that you got to go to jail to get yourself right.
Sure, and I completely understand. Like, you know, not to cut you off, but you know, I didn't live. I'm gonna be honest. I never sold drugs. You know, I was a kid who loved sports. You know, but I am from Norristown, Pennsylvania, and it's easy to get distracted in town. Period. You know, you can't grow up in Norristown, and just because I was blessed to have two parents who were educators who had their own challenges in their own marriage, you know, the many don't know, but you can get distracted. There's drugs, there's violence, there's everything. You know, my friends are people who had those challenges, you know, and you know, a few years ago, one of the older guys in the community, a guy named Alfonso Giddens, he made a status talking about the have and the have-nots, and it's saying how both sides can help each other. You know, the child who might have the two parents but has a friend who doesn't can help bring him to see more, but at the same time, the kid who has the two parents, when he's with his friend who doesn't, can also make sure that he understands and respects what that young man is going through. It was so powerful. And I sat and I just read that, I was like, wow, like that's just, you know, unique, and I think that's how we can constantly better ourselves in our community.
But I think the issue now is we take the have and have-nots and we pit them against each other.
But that's something we have to work on.
We have invented classism within. And that's something that we have.
I don't know if we invented it. I don't know if we invented it.
Well, we have, because
maybe society and
well, we're not we, you and I, but we have taken it that I always talk about this. I hate this when I talk to people. Forgive me saying hate. My wife hates me when I say it, but it really frustrates me when I talk to people and they'll say, at least I'm better than so and so.
Yeah, that's bad.
And they always pick the worst person they compare. And that's what I meant, how we've created a sense of classism within ourselves because, I live here and they live in the projects. We don't care what kind of person it is. It could be one of the smartest people who are trying to do the right thing. We do that. Or especially when I hear people the way we talk to kids, they're from that neighborhood. I'm a North Philly kid. I heard it growing up, all the way through college. Oh, you're from North Philadelphia. Air quotes, like I had to be a murderer. So we have classism within, and it has crept into the education system. Where we're kids from certain neighborhoods, we just assume we're not intelligent.
By all means.
Yeah.
So there's a label, like if you look in, yes, we're not North Philly, but if we look in Montgomery County, Norristown has a label.
But let me say this: all hoods are the same.
They are. I
mean, there's differences.
There's challenges.
But we have
poverty is different in certain areas.
It's poverty, but we have challenges that we have to overcome. And I meant that not in a bad way. I meant in a way that I think it troubles me when I hear people start trying to differentiate between places like this hood is better than that hood.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You weren't doing it, but I know. I think that's one of the struggles that I have.
That's something. I mean, honestly, being fortunate to go away to college and going down south to Auburn University and. I have friends down there. One of my good friends, Nate French, he lived in the bottom of Georgia, South GA, in Moultrie, Georgia. And he took me home one weekend, and I saw their quote-unquote and it was, yes, it wasn't high-rise, no, it wasn't that, but it was real, and it was just like, wow, this goes on down here. Everybody has a hood. Like, it's, you get lost out there, you ain't getting home, you know what I mean, out in Albany and far deep in the South. So, I mean, everybody has something, it's designed that way, as you said earlier. And there's ways we have to continue to work and try to fix it.
So how do you mentor younger teachers? You're not old yourself, but you know what I mean.
No, I do. I have interns that come in my building as well as.
We talked about that. We talked about the conference.
Yeah. I have some interns that, two young guys from Villanova University were really good these last 2 years. African American males, they're school counselors. Very good. I do mentor some of our new teachers per se. And I'm not saying I've necessarily been assigned to them, but if I think there's times where they can use help, I don't wait till they're falling off the edge. I just try to step in and give them some encouragement, or maybe give them some positive vibes or some feedback that maybe can help them. And then not just necessarily our black and brown teachers, anybody, because at the end of the day, the teachers in the front of our kids are going to affect them. So if I only try to help the black and brown teachers, and fortunately in our building we do have a high percentage of black and brown, district-wide we need to work on it, honestly. But if I only help our black and brown, well, our building honestly might be like 20 to 25% black and brown.
Yeah, but that's amazing, because as a friend of mine, as a principal, he has 3 males and only one of them is African American.
Yeah,
3 males in a whole K-8 school.
Last year, K-8, you said 3 males. We're a 5 through 8 school, and last year, Milligan, Williams, Page, McNeil, myself, and our vice principal, he's Latino but black and brown, right? That's 6. Hopefully I'm not missing anybody, and that's not including our parents, and that's not including our other male staff. We have Caucasian male staffs as well who have a strong impact, as well as our kids. So
that balance is important.
Big time.
That balance.
It is, because you got to learn. You got to be diverse in every walk.
It's really important. So let's talk about that, though. Let's talk about education as a community. I think we talked about the brown aspect of it and those things, and people know me, that's my passion.
Sure.
But I also think one of the things that we're lacking is that we don't do a strong enough job in educating our kids across the color lines, whatever, about it, that we do live in the community, that we live in a global world now.
Sure.
That we live in a world, man, where truthfully racism is just not going to last long. I know we got this season right now because of our lovely president and the Oval Office, but eventually it destroys everything.
Yeah.
And I tell people, you know, and somebody that hates one group of people with such a passion, that's not the only group they hate.
Sure.
That's just the group they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a dislike or hate for other ethnic groups as well.
By all means. I don't know, talking about the presidential thing without getting too far into politics.
It's a tough one, but
you know, one of these guys, older guy in the community, John Ruttman, he always says everything happens for a reason, you know, and it's hard to believe that sometimes with the things that are going on with the president, but I think it's also going to be similar to what you said, that things are going to sooner or later get squashed because people are going to start bounding together. You know, small communities weren't ever exposed to each other like they were. You know, Ferguson would have never been known if it wasn't for social media. You know,
but they need and not putting any pressure on you, but they need people like you. And I do believe that everything happens for a reason. I don't think God appointed him, God allowed it to happen. And I think sometimes you need to be slapped to wake up. You know, I think sometimes you get so content, and America has gotten content, and we've been slowly going down this trail of moral decay.
Sure.
And, you know, and we turn our eyes or turn our back to things that we should be addressing. And sooner or later, I just think God is at a time where a lot of things are being, you know, exposed, and it's like put up or shut up. You know, I'm tough on the church, man. I don't, you know, and some people say I'm critical. I don't think I'm critical. I just think nothing is above criticism. Nothing is above trying to make it better. I think nothing is above trying to create a realm or a sphere where things are operating the way it's supposed to operate.
I personally like the pressure. To say we need more people like you, for one, to make me go out and find young brothers like me, to try to help groom them and get them into these positions as educators. As a former athlete, you know, it's part of my nature. You know, but I like crunch time. I like.
But you know what I'm talking about. There's very few people who. See, I was the same way. I was the guy, man. I want the ball. You know,
all day long.
I want the ball. When I was in college, if I lost, people knew don't even sit around me on the bus. I had my moment, you know, but I was also the guy like you. I wanted the toughest guy. You know, I wanted assignment. You know, I wanted to be that guy that was known for stepping up to the plate. I wanted to be that guy that people could count on. You know, and I've had some failures and some successes. But that's a rare breed because there's a lot of people who don't want to be that. And what I mean by be that guy is because things only change when people begin to create momentum in the opposite direction. Like what we see right now is momentum going the wrong way because there's not enough of us making enough waves or trying to create momentum going the other way. So it takes what you said that we all begin to take somebody or somebody's with us.
You have to. We lift as we climb. You know, that's an old Afro, you know, or African proverb, you know, and I think more people have to believe in that. You know, you have to bring somebody with you to get to that point because they're going to know somebody you don't know who they can put on their back. You know, and it's going to just keep going exponentially and grow. But I think it's necessary. I even think we have to be mindful on the educational system, how we're doing our interviews to make sure we're finding the right people. We can't just do a face-to-face anymore. We have to find ways to really break down and get a feel for it because at the end of the day, day one in that classroom, they're in front of these kids. And it's hard. I'm not trying to say people need to get fired, but it's hard to get rid of people.
People
you know?
need to get as one who works with kids and one who hires a lot, what I found is people who've been in this business know how to interview. People who've been in this business and had several jobs know how to answer questions, know how to skirt around things. And the truth doesn't come out until they start working. Unfortunately, when they start working in the union, it's hard to get rid of them, which I think needs to change. But you are right. There's some people who should not be working with kids.
And I'm not trying to say you're a bad person, but it's just like saying
you're bad at what you do.
Because if you're 150 pounds, I'm not putting you on the O line. You know, there was an article recently that I read, and don't get me wrong line on who wrote it. I forget the guy's name, but he's a former NFL player, and he said how the NFL messed me up for life because the way in which sports teach you how, and you know, you're a former athlete, how it's like right is right and wrong is wrong. You know, it's not like, oh, it's okay, or you get a second. You know, certain things have structure that's wrong in the way society does work. But just to say that, we have to make sure that we're getting the right people. It's not, these kids only get one chance, and that's what I say in my superhero thing. They get one chance in front of you.
But the issue is the people who are hiring have to be more deliberate and purposeful about finding the right people.
They do.
Not just finding a person so I can move on. And I think that's part of the issue, is that, you know, not all, most people who hire, you know, they're not purposeful about finding that person. They're not diligent about taking their time to ask the right questions, to put you in a position where you can show what you can do.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to put you in this class for a week. Show me what you got.
Yeah. Or give me a sample email.
Yeah.
You had an issue in the classroom and you need to call this parent, or you need to email a parent. How would you describe the situation?
I like to see people in action because theory works well in the classroom every time. Theory is undefeated. As my coach would tell me, theory is undefeated. Theory is undefeated, man. Theory and hypothesis are two things that they're undefeated.
You will never lose.
They're undefeated. The problem with it is the application. And if you can't see somebody doing the application, they can sound like they can do it because they have the theory and the hypothesis down pat.
But that's not always going to happen.
But that's what, to your point, though, you got to change. We got to have a better way of weeding out people who should not be in this occupation.
And it's not, like I said, it's not a knock on anybody, but it's a reality. Like, there's some teachers at school and who go up and beyond to contact parents and do whatever it takes. Send emails out. The kid, one of our science teachers, the kid is failing or if the kid is doing well, both emails go out. She makes sure that they go out. So you got to keep finding people who are going to set that bar, and you got to that interview has to be hard. Like when people get governmental jobs, they got to go through different, and sometimes education, even though you got a faster turnaround because you got to get ready for September, but somehow we have to make that process hard and cutthroat, that people know that I'm not playing when I'm coming in here. I got to come here and deliver.
Well, I think a lot of it's like people like yourself. I think, to me, you have to set a standard. You have to set a standard and raise the bar to a point when people come in, if they're not adhering to that standard, they disqualify themselves.
No question.
It is obviously that they're not up to par with everything, and I think that's part of the problem, but it's not.
Yeah.
We make a lot of excuses. Like when I deal with youth, it troubles me because a lot of people make excuses for them. They oppress, they repress, they depress, every kind of press it is, but nobody ever gets to the heart of the matter. Like, okay, this person needs to make a decision to change. Once the person decides they can change, then we can deal with the rest of that stuff. And I think that's part of it. And I say the same thing if you have a teacher come in and the bar is not raised high enough where they can come in and kind of assimilate and do those things, that's where they stay because they're comfortable. But they wouldn't be comfortable if everybody around them, or the drive people around them, were pushing towards excellence.
That's part of it. And I think, one of my fraternity brothers, Tracy Jones, he said something recently about how sports are like a $15 billion business. Youth sports. $15 billion, right? And he said something and I thought about that, and I think about some of the people who have the capability of hiring the right people, right? When they have their own children outside of our district or even in our district, right? When it comes to sports and different things, they make sure kids go to the best coaches, right? Same thing that needs to happen when we have people applying for these jobs in front of our kids. Make sure we're getting the best for those kids. But it's hard because not everybody has that care.
Well, and a lot of it is if my kid's not going to the school.
And that's the problem.
If my kid's going somewhere else, I'm not that all fired up about making sure I get the best of the best. I'm not saying it's done deliberately, but I do understand that there's times when people need to hire somebody, and that's what they do, hire somebody.
Yeah.
Not the proper person.
No, that happens, but there needs to be somehow a factor. I know there's different districts out there. I was conversing with someone recently, and they said like a lot of our teachers try to move into our district.
Yeah.
Like that's so powerful to me. Like
it is.
You get a job and then you try to move your family in the district. Like if you really take,
you take ownership.
Yes.
Because you live there. It's like when I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about we got into a discussion about removing kids from a class, and when you deem them special ed, you get them out the district. And what I was sharing with him, I said, okay, let's say your theory is correct. The problem with it is, you're not doing anything to change this kid. You're moving his environment, but guess what? He got to come back home at the end of the day. And then they don't live around it, so they don't care. They just need a temporary reprieve during the day and so that's part of the problem when you don't live in the community. I say the same thing about judges who continuously let these guilty people out 4 and 5 times. Let them go back to their neighborhood and see how free it would be, given somebody who already shot 5 people and you put him out on parole and then he kills somebody.
And I think that's so true. And it's human nature. How they say like the certain thing, like what I don't know about doesn't affect me, or however you want to say it, and often that's the same thing. Like there's only like one school that's really deeply rooted in the borough of Norristown, and that's Gottwalls Elementary. But other schools even my school, Eisenhower and Hancock and Marshall, people are able to drive right back out. You don't have to come and see some of the challenges that our kids see walking to school or, in their neighborhoods on the west end of Norristown. You know what I mean? And if you don't see that, sometimes you don't, we did something big this year, my Vice Principal, Mr. Rodriguez, where for our students who are hitting like high marks, like as a student all the way around academically as well as socially, a group of teachers would go and deliver pizzas to these kids' households. Parents were like, wow, and it's just it's a sense of just thank you for doing a good job. But it also made so many teachers like really appreciate, because honestly they were coming in, parking our parking lot and going back to where they're from. And it was amazing to see how many people were saying, can I go with you, Mr. Rodriguez? Can I go? And that's showing that these teachers who, a majority of our school is white, but they're committed, to hopefully moving the needle for our students no matter what it is.
But I think that's one of the keys to good quality education is kids know you care.
You have to.
Kids know you care, man, because when kids know you care, they know you will invest in them. And I think, that's important across the board. I'm going to go to a song right now. We can go to Joanne Rosario when I enter in his rest, and then we'll be back and we'll finish up my man, Ernest Haddock the third. I got to make sure I get the third in there, man. There's only two of us. It's a senior and a junior, but I got to make sure I get the third in there, man. We'll be right back. 215-782-8464. We're back with Mr. Haddock the third and Chris Pender Sr. And, Ernest, we got about 10 minutes, man. So whatever's on your heart, I want to talk about the gala. FamCom, Fams Excuse the Move, we're having a gala on August the 3rd called Fun in the Park Before Dark. It's 5 to 9. It's at the Discovery Center, which is a beautiful location. It's a man-made lake. You can look out and see the lake. There's air conditioning, so it's hot. We got a live band, one of the best bands in the area. We got a comedian, a funny dude. We got a soloist. It's going to be food. It's going to be a great time, man. Tickets only $35. It's $350 for a table of 10. But it's $325 for a table of 10, I meant to say. It would be $350 if you bought 10 tickets, but if you buy a table, it's $325. And all the funds go towards programming, man. So we can do mentoring programs, follower programs, parenting programs, things of that nature, man. So we can keep busy. Also we do a coat and toy drive every year. That I do every year, man, that, we help families in need. So your funds are going to a good cause, man. And then on September 14th, we're going to be in partner with Cabrini University. It's Cabrini University, FamCom, Hungry Sports Academy, and Spiritual Connect Radio, which is this station. And we're partnered to Save Our Sons, which is going to be a day of workshops, man. And guys like yourself with all that passion, man, we're going to be talking about when they see us. It's going to be a roundtable discussion with some of the kids. So the goal is to get at least 100 young men between middle school and high school, but I'm also trying to identify 50 men. And the 50 men, the goal is going to be doing why and how. Why we need you to get involved, and here's how you can get involved. So there's things that you got, brother. Bring them to the table, man.
Sure.
So we can get them plugged in. I have a young lady's going to come out and talk about, from her perspective, what it's like being a single mom, man. What it's like raising a boy or boys in a time, man, and with no help. Her fears about social justice system and her fears about, am I raising him to be a man, the way he should be, or is it what my vision of a man should be? And it's going to be a real conversation, man. So it's going to be a great day. So floor is yours for the next 5 minutes, man. Close us out, bro. Anything you want to share from your heart, from your passion, go for it.
I'm just truly thankful to be here. I take every opportunity, as a unique experience. I don't look at it like, hey, I'm getting on a radio show and I'm better than this person or that person. I really take it passionately. I'm thankful that you gave me opportunity to speak, and you challenged me tonight within this discussion. Often I keep a lot inside, believe it or not. I try to lead by my actions, but sometimes you do have to use your voice to convey the message. You still need to, like we said earlier, and when we were off air for a second, it was just that. We are in a society now where seeing is believing is all the way live. You can't say you saw AI at the mall and didn't have a picture of him, or what I mean, or something. That's just not how it works in today's world. You gotta prove. It's all about proving. And we always say seeing is believing, and actions speak louder than words. But in today's society, it's everything, because these kids are only channeled that way. They only believe what they see. And you have to show that route. You can't just say I'm going to do something or whatever the case is. But I'm thankful for this opportunity to talk about education. I think more people have to understand you know, we have to get involved and just try little things. Like my mother's a former teacher, and my son right now, I can be honest, he is still working on his reading and writing, you know, and my mom works with him in speaking, you know, often, you know, like in anything they pick up. Maybe it's a little envelope, read this, read that, like just being, you know, more proficient in trying to get him to that level. But we also have to make sure that we're giving, you know, our kids the most opportunities, making sure that they are being exposed more. Like you said, we're in a global society right now. You know, we're trying to start an initiative at a school where our kids can learn Spanish, you know, and have different ways to, you know, keep our kids completely well-rounded. You know, even though we do have a high Spanish-speaking population, but people don't realize that they also maybe not necessarily are always biliterate. You know, so they need to get sharper on there. They can speak Spanish in our Latino population, but can they write it all the way out? You know, we have to get everybody sharper as a total to make this whole global movement real. You know, and we know communication is such a powerful thing. You know, that's the first thing that slaves were stripped of, their communication and their language, and forced to talk a certain way. Because we know once you have the communication and people don't know what you're saying, you can do certain things. And people knew that from day one. And that's why they took our language as people came over from Africa and started saying, speak this, learn this religion, do certain things. You know, so, you know, I think it's a deeper thought process. But I'm truly thankful. You know, what is your goal for your I know you spoke about the forum and the Save Our Sons event on September 14th, but what is your like goal? What do you think is considered a great day?
For me, a great day, I think, and I'm a firm believer, I think generation. I do, and I always ask myself, the first question I ask myself, if I was to die tomorrow, you know, what would people say to my great-great-grandkids? You know, what's my legacy? You know, what would I be remembered for? You know, not just because he was good in sports, man. He could hit a baseball, he could shoot a basketball, you know, not that. And that drives me. A great day for me is because I believe if you impact one person, it becomes generational.
It does.
Because if you take one person who you may touch him or her in such a way that now all of a sudden this person will achieve and become successful, which becomes generational.
Sure.
You know, if you can impact him or her in such a way, and even when it comes down to something as simple as choosing a mate.
Sure.
You know, that you may lift a family up from poverty to the next level. You know, even if you touch a person in such a way that they don't go to jail.
By all means.
You know, I think for me, you know, I always say this. I challenge people when they say, how do we get like this? I don't even answer the question. My comeback is, your question should be, how do we change the narrative?
Yeah, and it's funny you said it, not to cut you off, but with the power of social media, I read something recently about, and I've been trying to do it myself, with sharing your story, because that's the first time probably ever that we can change the narrative in the opinions or the way people view things, even your own family. So they say create positive content. So any memories that you had, right? Some people are like, oh, you're always showing stuff, but you can show the little thing, man. Like even if you're at a restaurant with your family, you're just showing yourself smiling. My father-in-law is big on that. He always takes a lot of pictures to make memories, you know, and you create that content, which allows others to see that, and others are your grandchildren, right? Because somebody might say, hey, well, you know, your grandfather had this show, but when he or she sees those pictures of it, then it's more real.
But I think the other side of it is what pictures and legacy is. For those who don't have an idea what a good, like when I'm around kids, I always end up having questions about family. Because everybody don't have a mom or dad. You know, everybody don't have a two-family home. You know, everybody doesn't have a dad or a mom who cares. You know, there's some people who are so interested in poverty and single-family homes that they don't know anything else. So also just being a good role model. You know, being a person of integrity and not perfect. I always tell people when I talk to guys, it's never about being perfect, because we have never achieved that and we never will.
Never will.
But it's about being the best you can be.
By all means.
You know, it's about striving for excellence. It's about saying, okay, I won't succumb to what the rest of these guys are doing out here when it comes to beating and cheating and all. You know? And I think that's the cusp of who I am, man. I mean, I always challenge myself, you know, and this is a tough question, and some people lie to themselves. You know, am I the same person who people think I am? And that's a deep question when you really think about it, because you know, people may think you're this great person, but I look at how many politicians have fallen, that the truth has come out. even in church. And so for me, that's a question I challenge myself with. Am I the same person that people believe I am?
Yeah, and I think that's something like goes back to looking in the mirror every day.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and you have to be mindful of stuff you say, because a lot of people do things, and like I said, you create the positive content for memory purposes, but don't use social media as the only means to connect with people.
We live in a tough time. I found myself, there's a young lady who I hired, and she has some physical issues, so to speak.
Sure.
You know, she's, I guess we would call special needs.
Sure.
And she turned out to be, man, one of my best staff members in my after school programs.
Wow.
And I just remember talking to her daily, and she's gained so much confidence, man. Not because of me, but I think I contributed to it. She's going to grad school now, man, to be a designer. And the sad part about it is she's a beautiful young lady, but I think because of her physical challenge, and I think because maybe what people have said to her, she doesn't even realize it,
Mm-hmm.
that she's beautiful, she's intelligent. You know, I think those are the things that we have to do, you know, that will outlive us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are the things that we can, if we can inspire people and encourage people and empower people to do better, to be better, it's still my slogan. But yeah, I think that makes this whole thing, that's why we're here.
Yeah, and that's and just the last thing I would say, going off what you're saying about how you leave your legacy. I'm a firm believer when you're looking for jobs and doing different things, right? You get letters of recommendation, right? But often people, if you were my boss, my superior, whatever, I would come and ask you, hey, can you write me a letter? I'm trying to look somewhere else, right? But to me, the impact is when you ask the people who you serve.
Yeah.
Right? So I get letters from parents,
Yeah.
or get letters from organizations that I work with. I don't just necessarily ask the people who are over top of me. Not saying they aren't happy with my job, but
No, that's
it should be the people who you serve.
Yeah, that should be the measuring stick.
You know, if you think about a restaurant, right? you don't ask the boss, hey, did I take care of these people at table number 2? You get a little card on your table and say, how was my service? You know, and that's the recommendation. So I don't know. I just think you have to leave your legacy through people and make sure that they are pleased with what you're doing.
We have about 5 minutes, man. So what's your closing thoughts as we close out?
My closing thoughts is I hope that many people join your conference on September 14th, Save Our Sons. My goal is also to be there on August 3rd for your gala here in Cheltenham. I am a Norristown guy, but I don't mind supporting.
Well, but I want to do, you know, it's funny because I spent so much time in Norristown with, I can't think of Hattie's last name.
Who? Handy?
Hattie, I can't think of her last name. She ran for office. I used to do stuff for her. It's a rec center out there, a little small rec center about the size of a shoebox.
The Power Center or the Carver Center?
The Carver Center.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to go around the Carver Center when Gilbert Kinsey used to be around there. He's a little older.
Okay.
But yeah, he was a big time basketball player. So I used to run fatherhood programs in Norristown. I ran them out of the Cobb Suite, the health services building.
Okay.
Man, I've done so much work in Norristown. I ran a program called HYPE, helping youth prepare effectively, for 5 years out of Roosevelt.
Okay.
You know, for 5th and 6th
With
grade.
Miss Dr. Simpkins.
Yeah. And I was trying to get some stuff. We became good friends. I was trying to get some stuff with Arthur Mitchell. We could never pull it off in a high school. So maybe it's time to revisit that.
That'd be awesome. I think they should be open to,
But yeah,
you helping.
But I just think it's amazing at what you do.
Appreciate it.
I want to thank your wife for allowing you to be here tonight, because I know how it is. You know, people always thank me, but I couldn't do this without my wife, who allows me to go out and come back to a peaceful home.
No, it's a support system when you're doing stuff like this.
So I always make sure I acknowledge the missus. I look forward to meeting her in the gala. It's a nice chance to come out and get dressed up and have some adult fun. It's gonna be a good time, man. It's a clean comedian. Band is a good R&B band, man. The view is a killer view, man. You can see the man-made lake, man. It's gorgeous.
Wow.
And the place is air conditioned, so it's hot outside. We can still be chilling inside. It's a chance to, to kind of get semi-dressed.
Awesome.
And to be with some professionals. I had some dignitaries who were supposed to come. Ted Josie is supposed to be there.
Okay.
I got to follow up them, but I got Cindy Bass, the local councilwoman, supposed to come.
Sure.
I'm working with Teresa Brunson, who ran for municipal judge. I got honoring a few people. My man Anthony Mitchell, who runs Urban Racing. You need to meet him because you may want to take him to Norristown. He actually works with youth, and he teaches them about NASCAR.
Awesome.
He teaches them how some STEM, how to build engines and stuff, and he actually has a track in Camden
That's awesome.
where they can go actually race cars.
I wonder if he knows anything about you know, my alma mater, North Carolina A&T, we have a NASCAR program at our school.
Well, I'm gonna plug you two guys together because
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he will. I set him up in Camden today. I'm pretty sure he would love to do something in Norristown. Another thing I'm trying to do is create a network
Okay.
that we all have resources that we can go to without always going through somebody else.
Understood.
So you can pick up the phone and see you, Anthony, without saying, "Oh, Chris, can you call
Go direct.
Anthony?" kind of
No,
thing.
that's
Yeah.
fine. Listen,
So
you give me a
I'm-
number, I'll make it
Yeah,
happen.
so I'm gonna make sure. Well, I'm gonna connect you guys. I think
Okay.
it's important.
Sure.
He has a nice studio, a shop on Delaware Avenue where he teaches in the track. And there's some other resources that I
Understood.
think that you know we could do, man.
I appreciate all this.
And he will be there that night. I got a couple other people that I think be interested for you to meet that night, man. And you know, hey, you know,
make it
keep
happen.
up the good work, man.
I appreciate
keep pushing the stones, we say, man. But at this time, I want to sign off. You're listening to Accentuate the Positive. Yours truly, Christopher Pender Sr. You got my man Ernest Haddock the third. Who welcome back here anytime, man.
Thank you, man.
So this time I want to
Thank you for
say
having me.
peace and blessings, man, and safe travels, man. Good show, man.